Bev's Video Kingdom is intended for a mature audience. Listener discretion is advised.
Bev's Video Kingdom is brought to you by America. Oi! Trouble with the local birds? You obnoxious personality keeping everything but the dirtiest slags from having to go at your knob? Then book a flight and get your ass across the pond to the States. All you need is a couple sets of trousers and your lovely speaking voice, and you'll be snogging in no time. American ladies will throw the hanky-panky at you with any old words you say to them. You may not be David Beckham, but American girls will think you're a right dishy bloke. So book a trip today, you wanker.
That's one of the best British accents I've ever heard.
That's really good.
You
I
just
wanna go
got
to the
into
States.
character. You were just like fucking said slag like super hard. Slag. I feel like I was on Game of Thrones.
I can brag your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing. Woo!
Hey. Welcome.
You went with hey, hey, hey? Ho, 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 bro.
He's actually holding up a sign on cardboard.
I'm the new Santa. Okay.
Hey, hey, hey.
Okay, so we are here with our third installment of the month of Christmas on Bev's Video Kingdom. We did Die Hard last week, which was questionably a Christmas movie. I think we all agreed that it was.
We all agreed.
And this one is another one that I think most people would say is a Christmas movie, but we might discuss that a little later. So this is Love Actually. This is one of my, regardless of genre, one of my favorite movies. It's top 5.
You say top 5.
I say
Top five of all movies?
You heard it? Didn't you hear him last time?
I guess I didn't register that that's what he said.
Yeah, it's one of those things that when you hear it again, you're like, wait.
I thought it was like top 50.
No. So this is, I will say that this is, it was a top 5 ranking back in 2004 when I did like an official ranking of movies for me.
And how many movies were considered? All movies ever?
All movies that have ever been made in any form.
It's a large draft category.
Just movies
Was
starting
it
with
made
L.
for TV movies?
So this is one of my favorites. I really love it. I think I would say that over the years since I put that ranking in place, it definitely would have fallen. There are some movies I would have moved ahead of it, but it's solidly top 15, maybe top 10 still for me.
Does Lady Gaga jump in front of this?
Oh, I don't know. Star Wars
Of your all-time record, is A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga better than Love Actually?
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear. Has Love Actually fallen out of the top 5?
I'm just trying to think of movies.
For sure has.
I'm trying to think of movies that would have displaced it.
I'd have to think hard about it. There are a few that probably Star Is Born might be in the mix. I would say Warrior could even be like a threat for it. I would say one we've talked about lately is Sleeping with Other People, which is one I really love.
Really?
So, yeah, there's a lot of, but I'm just throwing things out. Probably it's time to do an official re-ranking now that we have this conversation. But nonetheless, Love Actually is absolutely one of my favorites. It's definitely a must-watch for me at Christmas time. And it was sort of a fun one for me to rewatch this time around. So it's a movie that comes out in 2004. Three. Sorry. Okay. And it's I'm literally like so unprepared right now. Okay. It comes out in 2003. It is written and directed by Richard Curtis, who writes a lot of great rom-coms.
He's got to be a rom-com like guru, right? Because this is like the ultimate one.
As a writer, he writes some phenomenal stuff, right?
This is like the Lord of the Rings of
Notting Hill,
rom-coms.
Bridget Jones' Diary.
Well, Bridget Jones' Diary was a book, so he did the screenplay.
He does the
for a
screenplay,
book,
yeah. And About Time. He directs About Time, which is another one of my favorites. And he a lot of British type stuff, but he does some others as well.
Some stiff British comedy.
But this one and About Time are really his only like super prominent directorial ones, and it for me is like, it just really, really works. And it's funny watching this another time around. I realized, like, with a critical eye and not just sort of accepting things for the way that they felt, there were some things that I realized, like, I don't like about this movie more than I think I appreciated. But even that said, I still really like it. I enjoy it. I probably will never stop watching it at least once or twice a year. And I think, for me, besides it being a Christmas movie, and we've talked about this, I'm kind of the rom-com guy of the Bev's crew. But I kind of like the whole, like, concept of and exploration of feelings of love. And in this movie in particular, right, it isn't just romantic love, and especially that it's not just sort of like the typical rom-com romantic love that is a combination of sort of like new love and developing love, sometimes infatuation, sometimes something related. But this has, like, a whole bunch of different versions of it. And I want to talk a little bit about that, when we get to drinking with our guest and the director. But for me, what I think hits me about this movie is, like, it takes me to a lot of different types and elements and angles and stages of love. And for me, that, is sort of like right in my wheelhouse. I think that's why I like the movie so much. So what I want to know is reactions and back them up. So Zach, what do you got?
Well, I mean, you're talking about all the different types of love that this thing hits on, and it really hits like every single different type of love, unrequited, requited, whatever it is, love that you could have on the spectrum. And I think it's reflected in the runtime. How long is this movie? Was it 6 hours long?
I don't think it was quite
2 hours and 15 minutes.
2 hours.
So, dude, and I liked this movie. I really did.
But
and
it felt long too.
My God. Yeah. And even at the end, I was like, oh, there's still more that I got to watch. But it was over. Nothing else was going to happen. But I dug it. So I really dig the little kid and Liam Neeson's character. I really hate the best friend that's in love with Keira Knightley. I really hate freaking Professor Snape and, like, his weird, like, just ruining his marriage to Emma Thompson.
Yeah.
And but that's good though. Like, I like when movies make me hate guys. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. I felt like viscerally like I didn't like them. And I really like the aging rock star that's
Billy Mack is an all-time.
He's just like kind of strung throughout the movie. He's the only one that doesn't really connect to everybody else, and I dug that storyline too. What do you think, Brad?
As we know, the judge later on is going to be my wife, and
not the judge, but the
drinking with the
Our drinking buddy.
She'll be judging Brad.
Yeah. Well, so
should be judging
Nate,
all of us.
No, not just Brad.
Nate has known Melissa as long as I've known Melissa, essentially, and the fact that they've bonded over the idea that Love Actually is a great movie. It's always been very frustrating.
It blows my mind. I cannot wait to get into this conversation.
So starting there, I do have a love-hate relationship with this movie because it is on every Christmas at my house, and I do find myself just falling into it and watching it because, I mean, it is an engrossing movie. You can't disagree that it's not going to try to pull you in with all of its wily ways, and some of those ways are terrible. But great actors in this movie.
Pull you in with its wily ways.
And there are great actors in this movie, and their performances do bring you into it. And so when you've got just an all-star cast like this, it really is difficult to truly hate this movie because there's great performances. And
Denise Richards makes an appearance at the end of this
Shannon
movie.
Elizabeth, Denise Richards coming in
I was
hot.
like, holy shit,
Coming in
that's
hot at
Denise
the end,
Richards.
playing some as redneck as they can.
Dude.
Yeah, red-blooded Americans for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's got an all-star cast, and you can't fight that as much as I like to. But there's plenty to hate in this movie. There's plenty to hate, and we'll get into that a lot in a little while.
Nikki, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, piggybacking on a lot of what you guys are saying as far as just the size of the cast, the different plot lines, and that it works, and that they created like a framework that other movies tried to match, like movies like New Year's Eve, all the different, star-studded cast, all the different stories weaving throughout each other. They cross paths at some point, but this is the OG, and really, it works. They make London it's London, right?
Yeah.
Look lovely.
Oh yeah,
Like
Definitely.
Ted Lasso. I mean, you got the twinkly lights draped across like
Where's the
gross,
rain?
like beautiful flower studded like
Not a lot of rain. in this movie.
alleyways. No, it's all twinkling lights and
It
you know.
never rains in London.
But it works. I've always liked it. And you can't have a movie called Love Actually without showing all of the sides, or or most of the sides of love, and that's what I think also helps the movie is showing the sides, like Zach was saying, that give you like the visceral reaction, or that you end up hating or really disliking, or saying, "Damn it, Rickman, why you got to do me like that?"
Are they filming like a Skinamax special where the lady keeps having to get in various stages of undress and then they simulate like they're having sex?
I was saving that for our director talk, but I will. We can go ahead and get into that right now
bringing it up
because
too soon.
No, but just because the idea is this some high class porn shoot
Where they're like really worried about like the light on their nipples.
and they can afford stand-ins. Like, I mean,
So weird.
I think the Skinamax is the right call. I think it's soft porn. It's
soft porn doesn't worry that much about their lighting to bring people in. That's
I
when you
thought
you do stand-ins when you got big stars and you don't want them to be sitting around doing all that.
I want
stuff.
everybody to go back and watch their DVDs and rewind it to the scene where she is straddling him and they are simulating having sex, and you can see the man's wiener. Can you see his wiener?
I didn't look that close, but I will.
I'm pretty
go
sure.
Back. I don't have a DVD.
I mean, that's
of it,
my
though.
boy Tim from The Office. I mean,
He's great.
I love him, and I feel like they didn't get enough love in this movie because they don't get to do much.
Yeah,
Seeing
no,
Liam
they're-
Neeson in a rom-com is refreshing too.
Yeah, I mean, Liam Neeson's kind of
Give me Liam Neeson.
Since then, right? He's become a little bit more of an action star, which,
Yeah.
has been kind of, which is kind of crazy
primarily
because, like,
action
really
star, yeah.
prior, right? He has a bunch of roles.
Tell me you weren't waiting for him to be like, I'm going to go find the guys that killed my wife.
Or I have a very special set of skills.
Got a special set of skills.
All right, so
Who's hurt you, son?
It sounds like we're in for some fun discussion. Okay, so we're going to jump into drinking with the director and Brad's wife. Now, welcome Brad's wife, who, by the way, oddly prefers to go by Brad's wife and only Brad's wife. That's the way we.
That's her
Hey, Brad's
preferred
wife, how you doing, Brad's
pronoun.
But I'll call her Melissa, just because I feel like
She,
that's the appropriate
her,
thing.
Brad's wife. It says / on her
You
Twitter
might-
profile.
and you might know her from previous credits, such as the time that we drafted The Sexiest Men, and she ridiculed us all endlessly.
I did indeed. I had a full page of just all of your mistakes and how absolutely horrific
called
you
us
all were.
racist, I'm pretty sure.
Did I? Did we go that
I
far?
don't think she said those
It's
words.
been come to be known as the page of shame.
There you go. It still exists at our house. That's not
it's
going in
now
the trash.
framed.
It is framed, and she put it up. Yeah, just right next to my
Diploma.
desk.
So as is customary, and of course we'll entertain Richard Curtis here, but the real feature here is Melissa. So we're going to start by talking about what we're drinking, and then I want to hear Melissa's opening thoughts. So let's start with Zach. What are you drinking over there?
I got that Karate Kid in the garage, son. It's absolutely delicious.
Who makes that?
Last Call Brewing.
Yeah, they do.
Is that their
Oakdale,
new special,
California.
the Karate Kid in the garage?
That's a new one.
It's like the smaller,
It's
like
a Pilsner.
yeah,
You got the child pepper.
heartthrob version.
And soon enough they're going to have the BBK IPA, aren't they?
Yeah, and then their sales are going to go through the roof. and
Ev's
they're
Video
gonna have to,
Kingdom going to have a beer.
they're going to have to
Like
expand. It's going to be a blessing and a curse for them.
Early 2022. Expect that, y'all.
Last Call Brewing in Oakdale is going to have.
I want to know how much of Nate's grenadine Melissa took to make her drink. What do you got? What do you got going over there?
Well, I was going to thank you guys for inviting me, but I was never really invited. I was basically summoned here. So thank you for telling me what time I needed to be here.
You're welcome.
And there's, far as I know, no grenadine in this.
Wow.
Nate actually
As
poured
far
this.
as you know,
I was told it's 100% liquor, so I'm going to let Nate go ahead and share the recipe.
this is one that my wife brought back from Scottsdale. It's the wine floater. So it's got a ginger liqueur, a pepper liqueur, quite a bit of bourbon, and it's got some Zin floating on the top. Makes a pretty drink.
It's
And
nice and warm.
it makes a Melissa feel warm.
It's nice and warm.
I gotta say, as somebody who's not much of a wine drinker, when I first saw it, they actually like posted this on our socials, and I saw it, and I was like, "What the fuck's going on with this bourbon with wine on top of it? That seems terrible." But I tasted my wife's drink tonight. It's pretty damn tasty.
It's pretty good.
The Zin said it's aged in bourbon barrels, so I think that's a classic pairing.
Wow.
That's what made the thing
Yeah.
have legs. Okay, Brad, what are you drinking?
You know, I'm on that Last Call Karate in the garage as well. Just handling that.
Just pounding that tap.
Yep.
Brad was just doing the crane. He had one leg on the ground and was doing the crane because he was like, "Hey guys, meet me in the garage."
Two of those, and that's what you do.
Nate's wife asked if I also wanted a wine floater, and I said yes, please. And it was delicious. My glass is empty, and it was great.
All right. So, Melissa, you and I would say that Melissa and I's relationship is one in which she often tries to not laugh at things I say, and I feel great victories when she does. And she does her best to sometimes loudly and sometimes very smugly make sure that I keep a very level head, and I appreciate that about her. But we've bonded every single year over our love for this movie. So tell me, what is it about Love Actually that you love? Why is this a movie that sort of we summoned you for?
Mainly, why do you still love it after you found out that Nate loves it?
That's a great question. Let me just say, first of all, I don't have to try too hard not to laugh at anything that you say. It doesn't take a ton of effort.
She's lying.
I heard you say on an earlier podcast to which I was subjected that you and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, and I have to.
I didn't say that.
You did.
You did.
Damn it.
Thank you. Go
you don't
back.
Listen to our pods.
Ask Zach's wife. I've heard she listens.
Melissa was talking about listening to the pod earlier, and I said, Melissa, you don't listen. You are captive.
Yeah, I am.
You are trapped in the car with your husband while you listen
to it. That's actually our son's wording. Is we're subjected to it. I don't agree with that. Oddly enough, I don't agree that we don't see eye to eye.
That makes me. That kind of warms my heart. That feels maybe I've had a little too much of my own cocktail.
Well, I mean, obviously, we both have a lot of love for my husband.
We do. We both love your husband a lot.
Like inordinately so.
I might love him more than you do, but let's talk about that later. Okay.
I think that's a fair statement.
You guys should argue about that.
We both think that Nate's wife is an amazing human being, so we agree on that.
Can't disagree.
We both agree on Love Actually. That has taken up just a ton of my brain space lately. Why do I like this movie? And why do you guys hate it? Because I'm going to go ahead and assume that you guys hate it.
Don't hate it, but it's long and not the best movie ever.
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the main thing that I can come up with is that it is a British comedy, and that is honestly what I love about it. So Richard Curtis also did 4 Weddings and a Funeral, which was kind of my first introduction into the style of British comedy that I absolutely love.
It's a great movie.
And as I paid attention to that through our latest run through, I noticed that anytime an American came onto the scene, they completely ruined the movie for me. That I love the British characters, I love the British actors, I love the British lines and style of humor. I love Colin Frizzle until the second he steps off that plane in Milwaukee. I cannot stand that part of the movie. That is my absolute least favorite part. Billy Bob Thornton shows up in The American President. Who says that's a pretty little son of a bitch right there? Nobody says that about a woman. Like, honestly, son of a bitch, have you... I got to pull... I'm going to pull the table. Have you ever...
That's just locker room talk, Melissa.
Shut up, Zach. You have never said that about a woman.
I think that's a direct quote from George W. Bush.
I did see that
Okay.
Billy Bob signed on to the movie without actually reading the script because he heard that it was a Richard Curtis movie. He was like, yeah, man.
So by the way, just to connect the 4 Weddings and a Funeral, interesting sort of little bit of trivia. The whole Colin Frizzle conversation at the wedding,
Right, yeah.
was actually originally written for 4 Weddings and a Funeral and
And it was
cut,
supposed
and
to
so
be
he
Hugh Grant.
put it back in. That's right.
Love Hugh Grant. Love just all of the lines they give him, the subtle, just, you know, it's the original British Office comedy. The very subtle lines, the reactions, the lifted eyebrow.
He's very good at being handsome and uncomfortable.
Yes,
like he makes it very like his uncomfortableness makes him endearing.
So his storyline is the only romance that I actually buy. Like, I don't think, like, I think
you
it's...
think he'd get with that girl, how thick she was?
Oh, shut up.
They say it 47,000
I know
times in that movie.
that's one of the.
I did put it in my notes, and this is something I would want to actually ask the director. Was there any thoughts of Monica Lewinsky when they cast this? Was that intentional in any way? Because this is obviously post Bill Clinton Lewinsky.
They do look very similar. Although
No, actually, we watched the Red Nose, whatever that was called, Red Nose, actually. She is 100% Kate Middleton. Martine McCutcheon, I think is her name. She looks exactly.
I think she's
like
absolutely
Kate.
beautiful in the movie,
She
and
is.
it's so funny to me that the entire time they're just disparaging her. Even her dad calls her like fluffy or something
Plumpy.
like that.
Plumpy.
Yeah, plumpy. I was like, what the hell?
Do you think
So-
though, if it was Monica Lewinsky, was that an intentional?
I didn't even think about that, but I like
Well,
it.
I mean, you know, it's clear that Tony Blair is probably the inspiration for Hugh Grant's
He's got
character in some way, right? And there's definitely, you know, that sort of connection between Bill Clinton and Tony Blair, even though that's not the Billy Bob Thornton character. So, yeah, I got to think that, like, you know, that's probably, you know, might be the thought. I don't know. But I mean that. But I think there is sort of like, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, he's single, obviously, so it's not a married situation. It's not a cheating on his wife or anything. But at the
Thornton?
same time,
No,
no.
Hugh
David.
Grant.
Hugh Grant.
Thornton's for sure married.
Well, yeah, no, yeah. So he's. But I'm just
He's
saying, like,
representing the Americans. I mean, the Americans look like shit this entire movie.
Yeah, that is one
Yeah.
theme is that he likes to shit on the Americans. So okay, so here's a question I have. So of all the different, you know, sort of storylines, which is your favorite and which is your least favorite?
100% the Prime Minister, David
That's your
and
favorite.
That's your
Natalie.
fave?
I buy it.
Yeah.
From the first minute they see each other, they're awkward. They stick their foot in their mouth.
She cusses a whole bunch.
She cusses
Yeah.
a bunch, and he thinks it's funny. And again, we talked about this on my podcast debut, that I think a sense of humor is attractive. And I 100% buy that he thought she was funny and she thought he was funny and that they clicked.
And he's good looking and she's super pretty. That helps, right?
Sure, but are you going to make a movie about people who aren't? It's a visual medium, unlike the one in which you are starring currently.
I'm just saying.
and we're doing well.
Maybe that's the reason.
Absolutely. So that is my favorite. It has my favorite moment where he reads the card, everything from that second where he makes the phone call and says, right now, and tells people not to wait up for him. And there's the callback to the song, and he is going to the dodgy end, and he says, oh my God, it's the longest street in the world. He has to Christmas carol. He's got the little girls dancing for him. It's just, that to me is the feel good part of the movie. You're laughing, you're enjoying it, you're in it with them, you're cheering for him. That is my absolute favorite storyline. The octopus costume just sends it right over the edge.
It puts him in a ton of situations to seem like a super great dude.
I think it like takes him down a peg. And I think from the very beginning too, like that's something that I saw is you don't just go from nothing to prime minister. He has to have been in politics before. He has to have people who have just, you know, blown smoke up his ass or treated him like he's infallible. And here's this chick for the first time who's talking to him like he's a real person. Like that's got to be attractive. That's got to be a relationship to him that feels real compared to all of these other relationships that he's been in for a while.
I also like that he tells her he could have her ex-boyfriend murdered.
Oh my God, I love that part.
That's one of my favorite ones.
Love it. Absolutely.
right.
Yeah,
So-
that's my top. And then as far as at the bottom, like I've got like a 4-way tie for people I
Oh,
just
really?
really don't give a
Good,
crap
because
about.
there was some that I hated. Who did you hate?
I had to write them down because they were all so terrible.
Did you hate the guy in love with his best friend's
course.
wife? That's so terrible, right?
It
What
is,
about-
but at the same time, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be.
No. It's a very common deal. But I'm just saying that I don't like him as a dude, and like you're supposed to be like super sympathetic to him.
Are
and
you
it's
really?
like-
So, okay, so that's my big question, because a lot of what I've been reading about this movie that I love so much is how problematic it is. But I think it's only problematic if you look at it as I'm supposed to be cheering for this person. I don't think you're supposed to be cheering for Mark in this scene. If you think that's romantic, there's something wrong with
Exactly.
you.
There's different stages of
Whoever-
love, right? I mean,
Yeah, so, you know, watch out for that in your dress.
whether it be even if it's unrequited and you add like weird in love with your best friend's girlfriend deal on top of it. And did Keira Knightley get some teeth work done before she did Pirates?
Maybe.
I think she's kept her teeth. I think.
like-
they're
You think she
just-
has those same teeth?
I like her.
I believe so.
She's a
She
little
has British
snaggletooth.
teeth.
She's got a lovely natural
They're not even that
grin.
bad. They're not even that bad. I just feel like I feel like she looked different in the pirate movie. And I hadn't seen Love Actually in a long time, so I
Wasn't
watched it.
18.
She was only 18,
was
in Love
18 in
Actually?
Love Actually?
Oh, wow.
Do you want to blow your minds? Is that she's only 5 years older than Sam when they filmed this movie?
Oh wow,
The kid from
the drummer.
yeah,
What?
but he's also in the chess show on Netflix.
Yeah, he's in the Queen's Gambit.
He's
Yeah,
also
Queen's Gambit.
Forgot
Jojen.
that was him.
Jojen Reed in Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Who has a much bigger part in the books. Sorry, go ahead.
So Brad and Nick, what do you guys want to ask?
Go ahead, husband.
Well, I just see, again, and I've said this before in the pod, when I see movies that I kind of start not liking, I start picking them apart and I really start nitpicking, which is not probably a good thing to do. But first off, the wedding has a gigantic staff making all the food. Like they go in the behind the scenes and like there's all these chefs and stuff making food. But it looked like there was only like maybe 40 people at the wedding because half of them were playing instruments for his little like charade.
Half of them had a trombone.
So I'm assuming there was like 40 people at this wedding, but they make it look like it's just like they're just in full go. Like we got to serve 100,000 people. And so I thought that was just kind of ridiculous. Like
They must have been balling, right? Like the guy's dropping, like he's like, I just spent $500,000 on my best friend's wife. And then my big romantic gesture to woo her is going to be a boombox with fucking cards
Cardboard.
that I wrote on in Sharpie. But I just spent $100,000 on fucking the shit at her wedding.
And I put on my list also the sex stand-in stuff is just aggravating. Like,
Oh, really?
It's just, is it a porno? Is it a porno? And do they pay people to be the sex stand-ins for pornos? And are those people like enough of people to have their own apartment?
and how much are you concerned about that lighting is going to be just perfect off of that nipple?
And then
We
he's
need her
like,
to be
enough that he needs to
topless.
massage it.
But I thought that's what actually adding that
is that
storyline and them
serious?
throwing the F-bomb out is what actually made this movie like refreshing. Like, oh, they're going to show some boob. They're going to say, you know, fuck. And that's not your standard, like romantic, quote unquote, like Hallmarky
And then
Christmas movie.
romantic Christmas movie.
And then they
Yeah,
completely
comedy.
shy away from the threesome scene. Right, Melissa?
I'm sorry, which threesome scene is that?
There's a threesome scene or a foursome scene, actually.
That guy had
It's a-
multiple
it almost
windows
turns
pulled
into a
up on
fivesome.
his.
Oh, the American one that I
Yeah.
completely hate. Yeah,
Because-
I can't stand that.
So that part of the movie I like because they just decided to go like 100% ridiculous.
I was going to say
in
that guy had
one
multiple
storyline.
windows pulled up on his.
But it's like they've covered. This is what I was going to say earlier is that I like this movie because they've covered the gamut of like the super serious my wife died, the super serious I'm going to cheat on my wife, the super serious I love my best friend's girlfriend, you know, I'm in love with the cute popular 8th grader, like all the way down the spectrum of all the different ways. The Liam Neeson's love for his stepson.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's so
and
many
there's
different
a couple different brother sister
Yeah.
elements, right? Where
And
they're
then-
like really, you know, there's like, you know, the Laura Linney character who just cannot like stop, you know, being worried about and taking care
Oh,
of
yeah,
her,
I forgot about her,
her
dude.
brother who's institutionalized, and so much so that like for me one of the most painful single scenes of the whole
when he
movie.
swings at her, bro.
I was thinking where
Oh.
he cockblocks her with his cell phone.
Oh yeah, well that too. And then she shows up to like comfort him, and he freaking takes a swing at her.
Yeah, no, I mean
Yeah.
it's all
Dude.
bad.
Very uncomfortable. The funny thing about this whole situation with bringing Mel on here is that Mel and I pretty much have most of the same complaints and likes in the movie, but yet it's like something she always wants to watch, and I'm like, So it's funny that we pretty much agree on most of the movie.
So my relationship with this movie is the same as most of my relationships in my life, that I realize everything that's wrong with them.
She just gave me a look.
And I can
Hey,
talk
look.
all the smack I want on these things that I love. But if anybody else wants to pick on them, I will lay my vengeance upon thee. And I do not stand for a lot of these criticisms. I don't know. I get what's wrong with
That
it.
checks out.
But at the same time, I think a lot of people who just get really up in arms about things that they think are problematic or wrong or bad about these movies, I think it's a bad take, or I think they're taking it too far, or I think they're missing something.
What do you think
Important.
about Hugh Grant basically like not saying anything to her and like firing her real quick?
So I read something about that too, where they mentioned that he fired her. He asks for her to be redistributed.
Right.
And to me, honestly, I think that makes this relationship less problematic, that he realizes that there's a power differential. And the very first time he sees her, he says basically that is a problem.
But you
Like,
don't think he should have been like, hey, this isn't because Billy Bob Thornton was trying to kiss your ear?
do you think that that's it? So honestly,
Because that's
like,
what she
what's your
thinks.
take on that?
I think it sucks for her because she thinks that it's because of the Billy Bob Thornton
And she
interaction.
feels like
He
it's
never
her
explained
fault.
himself. If he cares about her,
Right.
he should have been like, hey, like I'm gonna have to send you somewhere else because I'm not uncomfortable with our, like, obviously there's some sexual tension. I'm uncomfortable with our relationship. I'm going to have you go do this. And that also gives the opportunity for her to be like, oh, no, I'm totally into you too. Let's just be together. And then they could do that and avoid all of this other shit.
He blame it on the octopus. It's all the octopus's fault. Because that was the point when she's apologizing.
Right.
She's apologizing for what this president did, which is totally his fault. And she feels like it's her fault. And so at that point, David should be apologizing and saying, no, this guy was a dick.
Don't apologize. Like, obviously, I know Billy Bob Thornton's a douche.
But then the octopus gets in there like octopi do. And he should have said something at that point. But I think, honestly, when he says, can we redistribute her, I honestly think he's trying to be responsible. He's trying to act within his office and his power and still realize, even if I have feelings for her, this is not the right situation in which to act upon them.
I paid more attention to that scene this time, just knowing what happens. He legit leaves that room for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, Billy Bob swoops in.
Billy Bob is hardcore. I mean, he went for a move.
Brad blames it on David not having the folder ready to go.
Yeah, I'm like, how do you not have your folder in your room and you got this big thing to discuss and you don't have it ready? Like, you don't have the staff member go get it? Like, he has to go get it himself?
So I'll say I hate the Billy Bob Thornton stuff. And it's actually not that stuff so much as like, for me, so like, actually I hate the Hugh Grant line early where they're all talking amongst themselves before the visit. And he says, let's not forget that America is the most powerful country in the world and we don't want to be a petulant child. It's just like, it's so far, for me, that was so far-fetched and such a stupid line. And then I thought, the Billy Bob Thornton is such a caricature and the whole, I don't know. That
goes back to Revolutionary War. I mean, ever since we kicked their ass, they've just been
like, they're kind of.
Can we talk about?
And also after like 9/11 in 2001 in U.S. and in Britain, like together, that was like a serious like alliance, and like that was something that, and then they took a couple shots at America, but that was like at the peak of maybe like our tightness.
Oh yeah, Tony Blair jumped in.
Time. Yeah,
I thought the biggest shot was like, look, you can just run past our security. We don't even care. Be a redheaded step.
That's what this whole movie's about. It's trying to expose the faults in all the airport security.
So one of the things that I thought was, for me, makes this movie more lovable than it should be given some of the problems is that it doesn't do too much to try to overwork the intertwining of the stories, which is oddly, like sometimes you might think that would be what would make a movie like this work. But it allows you to really hate certain storylines, and it doesn't contaminate even the storylines where the characters kind of have connections, right? And so, like,
because it doesn't come completely together,
right? They don't even try. They don't even try to make the storylines mesh so much as they just want you to know that the people in the storylines know each other.
Right. But again, is that even like
necessary?
Yeah, like it's like what's the point of that?
I guess I think for me, I think it because it otherwise it feels truly like you're just completely watching a bunch of disconnected vignettes that aren't a movie. And here it's like you're observing a little bit of like a small universe of that's going on, of people that are connected.
It's really close to having everybody at the recital except Portuguese guy.
Poor Jamie.
Right? who I love. I like that story.
Well, and Billy Mack, right? Billy Mack's, like, as you noted, right? That's
true.
It's not at all connected.
He's kind of like the Christmas angel.
And by the way, that's another storyline that, like, we talk about different kinds of love, right? This is that, sort of kind of love that is just a platonic friendship kind of love, and which is one of the things that I really like. Well, maybe. But I'm just saying that this is, and for me, right, I talked about why. I mean, the thing I love about that element of it, right, is like I tell you guys I love you. Like you guys are a bunch of my best friends, and like I'll tell you guys that like I love you, and tell you how I feel about you because you're important to me. And I like that this movie isn't afraid to sort of like take that from all the angles. And I guess maybe we should go to the most controversial one of all.
But wait, before we walk away from that, I have a fucking serious problem with the fact that he can't be like, hey manager, I love you, man. Come to Elton John's party with me. What the fuck? I don't understand why he has to be like, oh, you left Elton John's party? It's like, come with me, bro. You're my best homie.
The only way we hang out is when we...
I mean, I guess it sets up that scene.
Get pissed and watch porn. It's not as much fun as Elton's party.
All right, so let's talk about the controversial scene. Let's talk about the note cards. So...
Wait, what?
So I want to talk...
Can I light that one? Can we go light before we get to that?
Yeah, well, I got
something else I want to talk to before we even get to that.
I just want to know, was the funeral... chapel or wherever they had the funeral for Liam Neeson's wife, was it double booked?
Why?
Why?
Because he makes this big deal about how the Bay City Rollers are going to have this nice, like, beautiful montage. That's what his wife wanted. As soon as that montage starts, they're carrying the body out the place. Like, it's playing while they pick up the casket and bounce out. I'm like, why didn't they get to watch the whole montage?
Bro,
Like,
I didn't even notice.
I know.
it's a nitpick.
They did it fast.
I was looking at his wife, like her super young pictures in the background, the black and white, like she was like a beautiful young woman. I was like, this is emotional right now.
Yeah, but then they pick her casket up and like as the montage is playing, they're like, we're out.
Got
And
the
actually, to get
closing
really
speech,
dark-
of course. There are like other people who spoke before him, and we just see the very end of the service.
But they play in this beautiful montage with the music that she wanted to hear, and then they're like, yeah, we're out.
All right,
It's how she wanted to be carried out.
this is what we need to talk about. We need to talk about.
the funeral
I
part
want to
was
know.
double booked.
I want to know Melissa's thoughts on Professor Snape's storyline because it fucking floors me the entire time. There's so much shit wrong with it.
Of course, there's a bunch wrong with it.
I love the filmmaking twist of like you figure out that she's married to him when they're sitting in the. I love that, but everything else besides that is infuriating to me. But in a good way, like it's good filmmaking. It makes me angry at him, and it makes me angry at the secretary, and it makes me really angry at him at the way that he handles it. Like this is not like a foreign situation to men in those things, and there's a way that you handle stuff like that, and he fucking did all of the wrong shit.
I mean, but I think that's exactly right. But I think to your point, right? Tons and tons and tons and tons of people handled exactly the way he did.
Totally.
And she as much as like I find her kind of gross because of the way that her character's played and like
Crazy,
how
right?
aggressive she is and in like sort of in a way that comes off as being very like
disclosure,
intentionally sort
Little
of
bit.
intentionally like disregarding and difficult. But I think those two characters probably in some version of them play out in a very real way.
No, it's extremely
Millions of
real
times
situation.
over.
I need to
So,
take a quick poll though. Nick, did they have sex?
No,
I say no.
no, for sure. But he's
He
already
knew that
betrayed her.
He knew that he had betrayed her. He knew
When
he had
she-
done enough
Yeah.
wrong.
When
And
she tells him that you've made my life a joke, like, dude, that's like the most fucking brutal shit.
No. Do you think they had sex?
The writers said they did.
Oh,
Oh, really?
They did. They said it was
'Cause she had the
physical
necklace?
affair. So I think we're supposed to assume probably when she got the
Oh,
necklace
no.
that
We
they
need
probably
we need an
did the
awkward
deed.
hookup with Snape.
that's fair.
Super awkward. So a lot about, everything about that storyline is wrong. Like you're not supposed to be cheering for anyone in that storyline, right? But it's like super awkward from the beginning because she's obviously pursuing him and
Yes.
he's just fending her off poorly. He's not doing a really good job to shut her down as an authority
it's one of
figure.
those-
deep
and-
into
How long
shit.
had they worked together? That's
She's
the
new.
question.
She's new.
Oh,
he
she is
asks her
new?
how she's settling in.
new.
So
Oh,
she's
that's right.
new.
So she is.
Yeah,
pretty-
we're seeing the beginning of it.
It's one of
Yeah.
those storylines that it's the train wreck, right? It's the like, oh, this is a storyline that can't go right. I can't take my eyes off it. I'm not going to like it when it ends, but I know where it's headed, which
And he
totally
was
adds
just
to-
out of town. Like, they're still totally together and married, right?
Well, and in that storyline, if we're talking about
it's a little left open, right?
But that's
Him
what I
and
mean.
Emma
Like,
Thompson.
what is it, Melissa? When they meet at the airport, like they're still married and they're staying together, right?
Right. So I feel like this is something like one of the first times Brad actually watched this with me that we kind of argued about because I feel like he tried to tell me this movie is unrealistic because everyone gets a happy ending. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Have
no.
you seen
Yeah.
these two? That is not a happy ending. But I think
Emma Thompson, the Laura Linney character, like there's so many like shitty.
if we're going to go back to the whole overarching theme of love is all around, like it seems like he totally screwed over her love for him, but they both have enough love for their kids and for their family
to maybe
that they're at least going to stick it out to keep that unit together.
See, but I didn't think they had sex. I thought it was just like, oh, he got her necklace, and
I didn't
then
think they had
like,
sex.
I didn't think so either, but I still
think it
didn't like
matters?
I do. I think it's still terrible.
It doesn't have to matter, but
So
No,
I
okay,
think
okay.
if
Let me
you-
So
take that back.
interestingly
I think it's
enough, though, if you go back to Emma Thompson's conversation with him, I believe she says, or worst, if it's love and a necklace.
Right,
So
right.
she's saying that would be even
Right.
worse
Which
than
of-
either of the other
Then
options.
sex and a necklace.
yeah, and I think if we're talking about just like the heart wrench, seeing her standing in the bedroom listening to the is it
Joni Mitchell.
the Joni Mitchell,
And very clearly showing the pictures of them with their kids. Like, that's why I think that's where it ties back
and
to
she's
the theme.
so good in that scene without
so
saying
good.
a word that like it's just that scene for me is what if there's a single scene in the movie that takes it from something that's a little bit like supposed to be light and not maybe quite so serious, to one that you could say, hey, like if you were going to give an Academy Award to anybody in any scene, it's that one, right, for her. I mean, it's a heartbreaking scene in a movie that has mostly lighter and more
not Mr. Bean.
Moments.
Mr. Bean's amazing.
That's second.
So Emma Thompson's amazing, and
Wrapped in that
supposedly for that scene, she was married to Kenneth Branagh, and he cheated on her with Helena Bonham Carter, I think.
Oh, wow.
So she kind of already had that experience that she was drawing on for that scene.
All right, so let me make the case for the cards. So,
All right.
Okay, so
Now we get to the cards.
So let's talk, because we so often focus just on the scene. Let me make the case for the whole thing. Okay, so this is a guy who's his best friend, and by no choice of his own, this woman comes in, gets engaged and married to his best friend. He's the best man at the wedding.
And she seemed to think that he doesn't like her.
Yep.
Also Peter thinks the same thing, her
and
husband.
he's been super standoffish, obviously, right? He's kept distance, and he even says, right, it's like a self-protection thing. Like, I'm trying to keep distance. He tries to shut down her calls, so he videotapes her, like, and he's focused on her, but obviously is like trying to do that.
That was edited in a very erotic way. That video that was played, it was super edited.
Was.
Yeah, it's weird that he has this tape, and it's like, and then he's like, it needs some editing. It's like, you obviously edited it, bro.
bro,
Like,
you
your
edited the
best,
shit
like,
out of this.
10 seconds of each clip.
So she shows up, right, unbeknownst, like she shows up, and he's like devastated that she's seeing this, because obviously he's been trying so hard to like push this down, not deal with it. So then he goes outside, and like in one, I think the like best scenes of like physical acting in the movie, he's
not
like,
the turtleneck zip up.
he zips the turtleneck up.
My God.
Best
But
turtleneck zip.
he like flips around like he's gonna go back, and then he flips around and he leaves, and he goes around the corner, and he freaks out, and the guy's kind of worried. I mean, like, the music's playing. So there's this whole like lead up to this where this guy's like clearly really, really struggling with the fact that like he knows that he shouldn't feel this way, and he certainly shouldn't do anything about it. And like he's dealing with this, and then finally he gets to this point where she knows there's nothing he can do about the fact that she knows now. Like, she's kind of caught him off guard. So my sort of read of the situation is always that he is like, okay, like there's some unsaid things here, and like I want to explain myself
Behind his best friend's back.
behind his best friend's back.
That's the issue.
So I agree with that, and I'm not saying that there's not problems, but I guess I'm saying I think the characterization that what's happening is he's trying to like, so I think sometimes it gets characterized as though he's trying to win her over, and I don't read it that way at all, right? Like, for me, it's the ultimate expression of like, I totally get it. Like, I'm not asking for anything, I'm not looking for anything, and I don't expect anything here. I'm just trying to, now that it's on the table, I want to say my piece, and I'm walking away. And so, like, I think partly, right, because he's like, I don't want to lose my best friend over this, and I don't want to, and I don't want to make it, sort of like a thing that it doesn't need to be, because I'm going to walk away from this. And so for me,
is that the better man though? Isn't the better man the guy that just says,
Right.
I got to keep this
Because
in?
what if she
I don't
hops,
want to ever
she hops
possibly
into
fuck
his
over my
arms? She hops into his arms
Yeah.
right there. He is leaving with her there on the spot.
so I think,
100%.
Right.
So I don't disagree with all of that. I'm not. But I guess my take on this is that's some of what I like about the scene in the movie, similar to the one we were just talking about, which is, there's some reality there, right? Which is like, not every dude's going to be a good dude in that situation, and like, not every dude's going to be a terrible dude in that situation, right? And this is kind of that like,
Well, we need more context
awkward compromise.
Yeah, what kind of context of what kind of best friends are they? Like, I mean, have they been lifelong best friends?
College friends.
Best man at his wedding. I mean, you got to think that they're as close as they get.
And in
Got
terms
Brazilian
of movies,
hookers who are actually men. Those are pretty close friends.
that was one thing too.
That was a weird scene.
That's a weird, like, a little little window into their, like, what they're into and their relationship.
Did
was
anyone
that a
else
joke?
watch that for the first time though and think like these two were
That
a
they were
couple?
gay?
And he was
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just jokes. Like, that's just like when your friends are bullshitting back and forth, and you start like making it sound worse than it was. Like,
Yeah, that could be too. I thought that.
I would never do that to you guys.
It's just further evidence, though, of how close they were. So I guess my question then, because I have basically the same read on it that you do, Nate, that people who think this is a terrible scene look at it as this is supposed to be a romantic gesture, and I don't in any way think that it is. I think that it's his apology because at that point,
Then it's a selfish gesture, right? Because he's doing it
yes
for
and
his
no,
own.
because he just walked out after she saw this video. There was no closure whatsoever. There was no apology.
But it's
There
not
was
his lady.
no-
He doesn't know her anything. It's
Of
not his
course.
girlfriend. It's not his wife.
But he's going to be in their lives because this is his best friend's wife. So what do? You just like don't say anything ever again. Like you were saying, the bigger man like just lets it go. Like there is no letting it go after that video came out, which to me was like the big
Well, there's no
first
letting
issue.
it go for him.
Well, you don't edit the video in the first place, and it's sitting labeled next to your other videos.
Thank you, Brad.
And also, I just want to say, in terms of like movies, it's an iconic proclamation of love. Like
Yeah.
it was on, it may or may not be high up on my list, possibly for a draft. I won't say, but it was the top of my list.
Could be,
love,
the bottom,
obviously.
could be the bottom of my list.
If
could
we're
be on the
talking
top.
about memorable, right? I mean,
Memorable.
there was a Ted Lasso episode that like parodied this recently.
And there's
So
there's a
I
new
gotta-
Netflix Christmas movie that just borrowed from it too. What was the one with
Was it in Love Hard?
yes.
Okay, you're right. That was
yes.
I have a
spoiler
question.
alert. It was at the end.
I have a question. So, in another context, do the cards play as strongly as a movie moment to like profess love outside of this is my best friend's wife?
See, I think not at all.
What's the point? So to me, like
It's
as
like a
I was
say anything
watching
moment.
that scene,
It is kind of
it's
like a say anything.
so why do you do that? Because if you
Right.
call
I know.
her, if you try to talk to her, if you text her, you're bringing her husband into
Right.
it.
Right.
And you said behind his back, but at the same time, like, do you want him to be a part of this? Where he's basically saying, like,
No.
sorry that this happened.
That's why
I
you know
think
it.
you're
That's
perfect,
how you know it's wrong.
but it's over.
Because you don't want him to
What
know.
if he comes to the door?
Right.
Then you have a whole
100%.
separate set of cards
That's-
saying, "Hey, buddy."
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if he shows up and she's like, "It's carolers," and then he's still standing there, and then he walks up, what's gonna be? What's that
Stepping on
conversation?
our alternate
I
endings.
think that's a
He's a
reshuffle.
very fast runner. I think that was in the deleted scenes.
Okay, so are there any other before we end our discussion with Melissa and the director? Are there other storylines we want to get into that we haven't talked about? Because there's a bunch here.
I've got stuff about the kid later that I'm going to talk about
All
in
right.
Shag Snag.
Okay.
What is your take on the British accent, Melissa?
What British
As
accent?
an attractive,
Colin.
as an attractive
Is he on the
feature
wrong continent?
on a
Oh.
male.
I mean, I guess that would probably work if that's all he's got going for him. Then that's probably.
Do you think
not
it would have
gonna be
taken him
enough, but
that long to have a threesome when he got into America?
Fivesome.
A fivesome?
It ended up being 5, I think. Yeah, when Shannon
And
Elizabeth
they're like,
finally
she's
showed up.
the sexy one.
That is pretty silly, though, if you think of that.
Those women
It's
are
the most ridiculous. I thought it was a dream sequence. I knew
Okay,
when I was
dude,
watching, I was like,
so-
he's going to wake up.
That's
Our
a
kids
theory.
watched
Yeah.
this for the first time with us last year.
Yeah.
And then they rewatched it with us this time. And I think it was Carter who asked, did this really happen or is he just making this up? Like,
Yeah.
it's a valid question
Ted Lasso
because
fever
it.
dream.
He walks into an airport with Shannon Elizabeth and
Yeah.
And freaking the chick from Wild Things? You
Wild
kidding me?
Things, yeah.
Denise Richards?
Denise Richards.
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, like I actually don't hate it, but I don't hate it because it's like clearly played as such
Slapstick.
Like,
It's a joke.
It's not supposed to be serious in other ways. In the way
That's
the other
why
ones
it's
are.
awesome. I like that.
And I'm
Yeah,
happy for the
so-
guy. I like the guy. He's got balls. Like he puts himself out. He doesn't care. Like he just
I'm going to
wants
Milwaukee.
He wants, a
Love
lady.
it.
And
I wish he would have had to do something to get that fivesome because he literally just sits down at the bar and they're like, "You're a person.
He had it.
Hey,
You're British accent.
You're alive. Let's go. Come on."
All right. So, any final thoughts, Brad's wife?
I definitely love all the different versions of love in this.
I'm with
I
you on
am
this.
not a rom-com fan at all. Like I said, I think the Prime Minister and Natalie are the only romance I actually buy. So the love between Daniel and Sam, his stepson, who eventually comes to call him dad. The love between Laura Linney's stupid American character, and her brother. And, honestly, Colin, before he leaves to America, like his buddy Tony, they're tight, and there's all kinds of love between them.
Billy Mack
and Billy
and his
Mack and
manager.
Joe. And I think that's what makes it heartwarming more so than just the trope of people falling in love
The
when they can't
relationship
even
stuff.
speak the same language.
Emma Thompson and Liam Neeson's characters, right? Who are
Oh,
clearly really
absolutely.
close friends, and,
Yeah.
and you only get a little bit of that. I kind of wished I would have liked to have
Right. They build that up and then it never really goes anywhere.
I would have loved.
Where do you want it to go?
like she consoles him at the beginning, like shouldn't he be consoling her like at the end?
I want to see that.
That's why
friendship a little
when
more.
her brother shows up and she's so excited to see him because she thinks that he's
But
there
dude,
for the
because-
kids.
Does she console him or does she tell him on the phone, is this about your fucking wife dying? That's like literally what she says.
So in her
but
time,
honestly,
actually, I'm not surprised why Liam Neeson's like, fuck you, I'm not
I'm
gonna.
like, damn, dude.
I
I
don't care
think
if
when
you're
you
going through
really
shit.
love somebody, I think that's how you talk to them. When
I mean,
she
I
says
guess.
nobody's going to want to shag you when you cry all the
Yeah.
time, there's nothing you can say that's actually going to make someone feel better. So you might as well try to make them laugh.
I totally and that like it shows that like you feel like you're the person that has to be raw with this person because you know no one else is going to do it.
Well, Liam
Right.
Neeson wasn't appreciating because he didn't show up for her when she was going through her shit.
And they totally easily could have said, "Oh, Alan Rickman's going to cheat on Emma Thompson. Emma Thompson's now going to fall in love with
do
her best
something like
friend."
that.
You didn't go there.
Yeah, did not go there.
Yeah, instead he met literally
Claudia Schiffer.
Schiffer.
Yeah,
Literally.
I didn't love that. All right.
Mel, how many more times are you going to watch this holiday season?
Depends on how many presents I have to wrap. It's just on an endless loop until that's done.
What are your other movies that are on your holiday movie loop?
Well, I watch all the holiday movies, but
So,
this
like-
is the one that is like the background, just constantly going. As soon as it's over, it starts again.
What's your second favorite Christmas movie?
White Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. So again, like that's the whole sentimental, like if you've been watching something for a while and
Right.
it's tied to certain feelings. I'm trying to figure out what feelings love actually is tied to. I don't know, but I used to watch White Christmas at my great grandma's house. When we
Propped
would
up
have-
by nostalgia.
Oh yeah, when I ate saltines with peanut butter or white bread with butter, those were the snacks that we got at grandma's.
Dude, I was telling someone the other day about how my mom used to make me peanut butter and margarine sandwiches.
There you go.
Doesn't that
Yum,
sound
yum,
so
yum.
good?
Probably.
Grilled or just
Nope.
plain?
And then she would say it helps it go down because the peanut butter can be sticky. And so you would get like
some lubricant.
she's going to hear this too. And she's going to be like, that's exactly what I said. No lies.
Oh, beautiful.
Hey, Melissa, a pleasure as always.
Thanks a lot.
And you know
Melissa.
what? I take it back. We see eye to eye just beautifully.
Thanks for summoning me, guys.
All right. So next, we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to jump back in with some Shag Snag Body Bag.
Yes, sir.
Yay, yay.
We are back after that great discussion with Melissa, and we are going to roll through our Shag, Snag, and Body Bag. So we're shagging first. What is it we want on that? You know, just sort of, we want it, quick hitter, not taking it home, but man, we love it. What do you got, Nick?
I got the opening and ending sequence at the airport. The way it opens, and I love just the candid, like someone standing there with, like the creepy best friend is standing there with a handheld camera, videotaping everybody, looking for someone else to stalk. In the opening sequence, but the very end, God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. I fucking love the way that it ends with that song. I can't think of a better. That kind of stuff gets me. That real connection, people seeing each other after not seeing each other for a couple days, a couple weeks, seeing each other and hugging each other after not seeing each other for a whatever amount of time. And then with that movie, that song playing behind it, I love it. So
And turning into that heart and it was a very cool end sequence. I dig that.
I fast forwarded.
That's very Zach topical.
As soon as it said the end, I was like, burp, 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 burp.
Oh man, my shag here it's a weird shag because I don't like romantic comedies. So the fact that they packed like 5 or 6 shitty romantic comedies into one, and just kind of gave you the meat and potatoes of each.
That's how you see it.
I kind of like it that way. It's like they kind of took a bunch
took
of
7 shitty ones and put it all in one movie.
He's like, fuck it, I don't want to write 7 movies, so I'm just going to throw my best ideas into one, and
That's
we'll
so
kind
funny.
of tie them together real quick, and then, you know what, I'll just give you kind of the heart of each one, and that's it.
It's like the Big Short of romantic comedies. You, just, take all these B plus, tranches and stick them together. And
Which on second thought, though, there is like, I really would like to see like a deeper version of, I can't even think of his name.
Which guy?
I want the
Emma Thompson, Professor Snape?
Yes, I want a
Alan
deeper
Rickman.
version of that.
Yeah, Alan Rickman.
I'm sorry. Could not think of shit.
So that's what I'm shagging from this movie is basically just the contrast of all the different storylines. So lots of times you'll get multiple storylines and they're all kind of the same. kind of the same feel, but this one is just so absolutely ridiculous. The guy going to Milwaukee and all of a sudden having a foursome with freaking Elizabeth Shue and like all these ridiculous people, and then follow that with the guy with his wife who just recently passed away, and he's trying to forge a relationship with his stepson, and the guy who's who's thinking about cheating on his wife, and then the other guys like there's just such a from silly to super serious to sad even, just they run the gamut of all these different emotions, which I love.
So I'm going to shag Billy Mack.
Yeah.
I never get tired of that line. It's like, it's easy and it's simple and it's like easy to digest. There's nothing complicated. But it's also not the romantic thing, right? It's just like pure good and fun. I love the manager bit, but I love the song. I love the comedy. The song's catchy. The first time I ever heard it, I feel like I was like, oh, that's surely a remake of a real song. Like I was convinced that there was a real song.
I feel it in my toes.
I mean,
So
in fact, and every
ridiculous.
time I hear it, I'm like, that's a real song, right? So I'm taking the Billy Mack bit. Okay.
When he says when he's singing it the first time and he fucks up and he goes fuck wank bugger shitting ass head and hole, like it's just such a great line.
Such a great opener. All right, Zach, what do you?
Let me snag with it. I'm gonna go just because you just said Billy Mack. My snag is last week it was Alan Rickman. This week it is Bill Nighy, because Bill Nighy is just fucking hilarious.
Bill Nighy, the science guy. Is that a different guy?
That is a different guy.
Okay, I just wanted to-
But when I make my documents for each movie, like I just make a copy on Google Docs, and then leaving it there, I was looking at some of the movies that Alan Rickman and Bill Nighy they've been in a lot of movies together. So I added Shaun of the Dead because that's something that only Bill Nighy is in. But Love Actually, Rickman and Nighy, Harry Potter, Rickman and Nighy.
What?
I still you don't remember that? It was on my sheet last week as Harry Potter, so I left it. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, both of them were in it. Pirates of the Caribbean, Bill Nighy was on his own. But anytime you see Bill Nighy on screen, you're like, oh shit, some good stuff's about to happen, because this guy is always hilarious, always great, and I'm snagging Bill Nighy all day long.
I'm snagging the kid who is also in Queen's Gambit as like a 6th or 7th grader being in love with another 6th or 7th grader, and he's the boy and she's the girl, and she's a foot taller than him and super beautiful and talented and like super cool and popular, and he's just shooting his shot at like the hottest chick in school. I love that. And it never works out like it does for this kid where she's into it, but man, just the sentiment of the whole thing is fucking awesome. I love it. It's my favorite part of the movie.
I'm going to shag. Nate talked about it when Mel was here.
Snagging? Yeah.
Snagging. Emma Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
So you think about this movie without Emma Thompson, and it's basically another Hugh Grant rom-com. You know what I mean? It turns into Hugh Grant's the main one who's kind of carrying this movie, and to have Emma Thompson at the heart of this, who is just one of the best actors alive today. And then almost Hugh Grant as like a secondary character in a rom-com, which at that time was kind of unknown, even though he tries to steal the show with his Hugh Grantness. But Emma Thompson at the heart of it, just being an absolute badass. And like Zach said, having some of the most, the strongest and heartbreaking scenes in the movie just adds a whole other, layer to this movie that I think is what makes it so likable and rewatchable at the end of it all, really. So Emma Thompson is my shag.
Good call.
So I'm gonna snag a movie that's a romantic comedy that's in many ways not at all about like romantic love or about like successful romantic love, right? So it's I like a romantic comedy that has all the kinds of love and is like much more complicated across stories than the typical romantic comedy. I'm definitely I think that's the thing that keeps me coming back. So okay, so what are we body bagging, guys?
So I'm body bagging just super easy. We've really hit it ad nauseum. So I'm body bagging the guy being in love with his best friend's old lady. I get it, dude. You're in love with your best friend's old lady. Fucking eat that shit and move on. You don't need to fucking Sharpie a bunch of cards and go hang out on our front porch and hope that you don't ruin your relationship with your best friend. Just fucking be over it. Nick pointed it out earlier, but we've talked about it already, so I'll just really quickly. The way that it makes it wrong for the guy, I get that he wants to tell her what he wants to tell her, but the way that it makes it wrong is if Keira Knightley's like, yes, I'm in, let's go, then he's stealing his best friend's lady, dude. That's the problem, because he would have been in if she would have said that. That's where it makes it wrong. If we get the feeling that if she would have been like, "Oh, I do love you," and he would have been like, "No, I'm not doing that," then it would have been okay. He just needed to get off his chest. But he had the hope. He's like, "Oh, with no hope or anything," but I don't believe that. That's my body bag.
Okay, my body bag is all the Billy Bob Thornton stuff. So, I hate him as the president. I not only dislike it from like I dislike him like I'm supposed to, but I also like it kind of. I find it kind of unbelievable, and it's played campy, but in a storyline that I don't like. Melissa said she sort of buys it and is in on it, and I like that storyline otherwise. So it's like he infiltrates this storyline that I'm like able to suspend some disbelief for, and he's completely like as campy as the guy that goes to Milwaukee, scene. So for me, it's like there's a super incongruity between like the political scenes and the interactions between Hugh Grant and Billy Bob Thornton, and then the romantic interactions there. I just hate it every time. It drives me more and more nuts every time I see it.
You hate it because you hate him, right? I mean, he's so
I do hate him, but I also feel like because it's such a like unbelievable one-dimensional silliness, both the way that Hugh Grant acts as a politician with respect to Billy Bob Thornton, and the fact that like Billy Bob Thornton's kind of an unbelievable character.
Right. I mean, 5 seconds he's got his hand around her hair and he's like, "Hey, come here, baby."
What was he doing? I don't know what he was going for.
You got those cookies for me?
I'm gonna suck your fucking earlobe.
Alan Rickman, and maybe this is all connected to Emma Thompson, but Alan Rickman's character just blowing it with Emma Thompson, and for the secretary. And from what Mel said, word is that they were romantic, or that relationship did get physical, which is just another knock on old, Snape's. Snapey.
All
That's
right,
what I got.
My body bag's pretty much all the endings. That's why I just don't like romantic comedies. I hate these little storybook. That's never been my favorite type of movie, is like when the little storybook happy ending happens, which is maybe why I kind of like Rickman's story the best, because it feels like the most realistic. I don't know.
I love the guy getting with the Portuguese speaking lady. I feel like that scene's super heartwarming, and the whole family's there and the sister's there. And it just makes you feel good.
It's got that power dynamic thing. I mean, she's basically like his maid, and he's just like, she's the only girl around, and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna figure out how to seduce this girl.
He like falls in love with her when she has to strip to her bra and panties. All of a sudden, he's like, the music gets all slow, and it's like, oh look, she's in her bra and panties.
So, I don't know. There's just a lot of the endings. I'm just like, whatever.
That's a great Colin Firth, Zach.
All right. So is that it? And we body bag it across. Okay, so we are on Cameo, and I'm told that we have very limited Cameo. Brad just wants to make one quick Cameo comment.
Well, yeah, so Olivia Olson, who's Joanna, Sam's love, she was formerly on Cameo. One little note, they had Joanna and Sam were both later on Phineas and Ferb, the cartoon, and actually became love interests on the cartoon. Like their characters were love interests, so that's kind of funny that they went from Love Actually to that. But then also on Cameo, Denise Richards, who only makes a little appearance at the end. And all I got to say is I wrote that she was formerly on Cameo, so you can't curly bit on her. But holy plastic. If you just want to go to Cameo and just see her like little preview videos, man, she's trying to keep those looks. And
don't talk about Denise Richards like that.
Oh, brother.
She was on Real Housewives of Orange County.
Yeah, one of those.
For a season.
Oh, man, she is.
Or Beverly Hills. She was on one of those for a season.
She knows the doctors, the plastic surgeons, and the Botox folks. She knows all of them.
Last thing I saw her in was that Bond movie. She looks great.
Well, go check out her Cameo profile.
GoldenEye?
I choose not to.
All right. Do we have streaming recommendations? I believe that's where we're at, yeah?
Yeah. I'll say I'm not a romantic comedy guy, so I've already recommended this before. Go watch They Came Together. If you've not seen that yet, it just hates on all the romantic comedies and plays on all the tropes. It's a classic.
So I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path with my HBO Max. I'm going to go off the beaten path with mine. I'm going to go the exact opposite of this movie. We're going to go a terrifying movie that I watched last night, the French movie Les Intérieurs, which is also called The Inside, and it is absolutely terrifying. It's about a pregnant woman being hunted in her home by people that want to steal her baby out of her stomach.
That's great.
It is fucking scary, you guys. If you want to watch a good one, check that one out. $3.99 on Apple.
Well, I'm going to recommend.
That's Love Actually.
I think I've
Watch it with the fucking subtitles on.
I think I've recommended About Time before, but this is another one
yeah.
by the same writer director, and it's awesome. And so that's one that's on Netflix if you want to check it out, or at least right now. And then Notting Hill, which you know I love, and is sort of one of the early ones. I think he was the writer of the same writer, is on Peacock with ads.
It's like the most British of names of movies that you.
Notting Hill.
It's called Notting Hill.
That's a great accent. All right, so
Thanks, Nate.
do we have any final any reshelfs or any alternate endings? I mean, there's a lot. In some ways, right? It's a toughie because like, which one do you choose an alternate ending for? You got one?
I got kind of like a reshelf.
Okay, reshelf it, Nikki.
So Liam Neeson just brought it to me. So what if it's Liam Neeson, but instead of Love Actually, it's just a bunch of different kidnappings.
Yes.
That Liam Neeson, you don't know what world,
They've taken
what
my
you don't
stepson.
know what kidnapping he's gonna get into, and there's like a couple that go unsolved because he doesn't get to those, or they're like a completely different world, and it ends Zach style credits, and he doesn't get to like 4 out of the 5. He gets to like 1 or something like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
Any others?
I got a reshelf. So Hugh Grant mentions to Natalie at one point, he's like, I could have your ex killed, you know? And so that kind of sets it off. It's a funny moment. But then after the American president kind of gets up in his business, he's like, fuck that dude. And he gets the president of the United States assassinated.
All over Natalie.
Over Natalie.
Hugh Grant
and
does?
it becomes a big, huge deal. And it's like now we're in like a spy movie, CIA and the M6 or whatever they're called, the MI6.
MI6.
I don't know if that's right, but sure, that's what we're going to call them. They're all involved, and it's a big chaotic, and it might even start World War III. And then just shit goes sideways. It's not a fun movie. It's not a happy Love Actually movie.
And then everybody will make jokes about how they started World War III over a girl that thick. Like, I just can't believe that's the worst part of the movie is the like body shaming that goes on towards that beautiful
his
girl.
assistant, and she's just like, oh, she's got a gigantic ass.
Yeah.
Which is just
Man.
both seems to be like picky and sort of
Maybe
wrong,
it's
and
because
also
we're
just-
American and we're like, maybe she looks smaller than average.
But it's a British movie.
Yeah.
Weird.
Well, if he did, if on your reshelf, that would be a serious romantic gesture, which is a nice transition into our for next week for the second part of the week. So
Let's go. I need a win. Let's go.
okay, so we are drafting this week based on the many romantic gestures and maybe sometimes slightly creepy
A
gestures.
lot of good ones for you guys to draft here.
In Love Actually, we are doing the most memorable romantic gestures in movies.
Let's go.
So that's our draft category, and we, as a guest judge, are going to have my old friend, my college roommate, and very successful actor Cliff Chamberlain is going to be our guest. So we're not only going to draft, but we're going to talk to Cliff about Love Actually a little bit because he loves this movie and he wants to return to it. We're going to talk to him about some insights from an actor's perspective on a lot of the things we're talking about, and we're going to then have him judge us somewhat harshly.
I'm excited to have like a real Hollywood like person that knows about movies.
Yeah, Cliffy, he was a series regular with Claire Danes on the season 8 of Homeland. He was in the full season as a regular with Katherine Heigl in State of Affairs when that was on. He's on actually coming up on Broadway in a show called The Minutes.
Chamberlain. I was just looking at his IMDb. He slept with 10,000 women. Is that correct?
I you know what? We should ask him about that.
Okay.
He's a good-looking guy, so it's possible. So Cliff, or as I like to call him, Cliffy's going to be on.
Cliff Wilt Chamberlain.
Cliffy's going to be on with us next week as our judge and as a guest to talk a bit about what's going on. And so do not miss that. It's going to be a great pod. And I think that's it, fellas. Got any other thoughts about the romance here?
Not really, man.
Thursday draft pod, and then
Then we're on to Home Alone for our final.
hey Scott, what do you think about Christmas time?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thanks for joining us. This is Bez Video Kingdom, and we're headed out.
Check them socials and post and share us and all that good stuff.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bye bye.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my moon. that can grab your favorite podcast. Let's start this